I started my law firm right out of law school, and I ended up doing significantly worse than I thought possible.
And just to think, if that company would have taken that $20,000 demand, the law would not have been expanded.
The last time we had an upgrade in technology was case management software, which frankly wasn't all that good. For the last 2 months, I haven't been home a single week. So we're hitting all this growth without me even here. And I think technology is going to allow us to help more people and do a better job. We fight billion-dollar companies every day. And this technology gives us another tool to be able to fight them for our clients. So I think right now is a really exciting time to be a lawyer, and anyone graduating law school right now I think should be super excited. I've met with so many law firms that they go and they pay for the AI and they spend a whole bunch of money, and a year later they have nothing and they barely used it.
Yeah, you got to have a good solid practice and have the technology complement it, because it's not going to come in and solve all your operational deficiencies. Welcome back to another episode of Q's Quirky Podcast. Today I have Josh Schmerling. Hi Josh, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We were introduced through Margarita, a past guest, so it's nice to have you. She thought that you and I would be able to do some business and help me out with some problems, and that's been true. So thank you for solving some of my AI problems. So I want to get started with a little bit of your background. Tell us about your law firm and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I started my law firm right out of law school. I graduated law school back in 2008. The economy was in the tank. People were offering me very little to be a lawyer at their firm. And I figured I might as well just start my own law firm. I can't do much worse. And I ended up doing significantly worse than I thought possible, which is okay. It took me a couple years to figure things out, but then the firm started growing. Currently, we're getting close to around 50 team members now. So we've been growing quite a bit. Just a couple years ago, we were at about 10 team members.
Wow.
So we've been growing quite a bit. We do personal injury work throughout the state of Maryland. We do the whole state. We have 2 offices, and we also do workers' comp. So we do more dog bites than anybody else in the state of Maryland. I've changed the dog bite law on appeal twice to expand rights for victims. Yep. We do a lot of auto, slip and falls, and then we have a whole workers' comp department as well.
Explain how you guys changed the precedent in Maryland for dog bite law. When I was doing a little background, I saw that you guys had done that in 2023.
Yeah, so we've done it twice. The one that's more well known is the one from 2023, as you just referenced, and that was a really interesting dog bite case. And basically, dog bite law in Maryland's complicated, it's confusing. It used to be very straightforward. It used to be every dog gets 1 free bite, and the highest court in Maryland, changed that law on a court case. The Supreme Court in Maryland basically saying that all pit bulls were going to be strictly liable. And that caused all kinds of chaos, and had to be purebred pit bulls, which is not really even a thing. So there was a lot of chaos with the law. So the legislature took it up, and they wrote a law that they didn't really think too hard about before they wrote it. And
Sure.
they said all dogs running at large are strictly liable, except for 3 exceptions. But there was no definition of what running at large meant. And so nobody knew what it meant, but people just assumed it meant a dog off leash, off your property. That's what people assumed. And so I had a case with a young woman who had 1 little bite to her leg, 4 doctor's visits, 1 stitch, and we'd offered to sell the case for $20,000, and the insurance, they refused. Their top offer was $6,000, which was our medical bills.
Yeah.
And so we tried the case. We won $132,000, and they got upset, so they filed an appeal.
Yeah.
And on appeal, the court said everything we did was accurate and correct, and there was nothing wrong to overturn the verdict. But they also took a step further, and they further explained the law, explaining that running at large can be on your own property. And the way the court determined that was they determined that one of the exceptions the legislature had put in was trespassing. That it was an exception that if someone's trespassing, it would not be strict liability. And the court said, well, if trespassing is an exception, then clearly you could be running at large on your own property. And so it made every case where a dog's running at large on their own property, think about every delivery driver, UPS, Uber Eats, all of those became strict liability as long as they don't have a leash and not being controlled.
And just to think, if that company would have taken that $20,000 demand, the law would not have been expanded.
Exactly. And so basically what it did overnight is it turned all of my postal workers, delivery drivers, everything into strict liability overnight. Which was huge. And so
I
it's
hope
really
all plaintiffs' attorneys were sending you gifts, man. That's neat.
hopefully they're sending me their dog bites. That's the goal.
Yeah. So you talked about 2008. I came out during that time, and I understand. I was fortunate enough to go to work with my brother before I started my firm 4 years later. How were you able to get this massive growth recently? That's really impressive, going from 10 members to 50 team members. And I saw somewhere that you guys are running like crazy number of cases, like 1,500 active cases. What components of your growth do you factor in, and explain the growth process in such a short time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I'm just really excited. Today, we anticipate we're going to hit our new record for most cases signed up in a month. So we anticipate that's going to happen today, and we still have several days left in the month, and our records from a couple months ago. So we're very excited about that. It's a couple of things. A huge thing, obviously, technology. So about 3 years ago, I co-founded an AI company, LawPro.ai, because as I was trying to grow, one of the bottlenecks I was having was how to understand my medical records in time to be able to move the cases fast enough.
Sure.
And I was using my best people to read through medical records all day long, which was a waste of their talent. And so I was like, I'm never going to have enough good people in here that aren't reading through medical records, and we're never going to get through the records fast enough. And around that time is when large language models were coming out.
Sure.
And that's when I co-founded LawPro.ai, which basically using AI, we're helping personal injury law firms understand all their medical records, helping them with chronologies, case summaries, demand letters, negotiating the cases, discovery, cross-examining defense experts, putting on their own experts, all through our platform using AI very, very quickly. And so that did a couple of things for us. Number one, it helped us to shorten time on desk and increase case values. And so now that I can finish cases faster for larger settlements, we have an extra pot of money there available to put into marketing. Because when you multiply those numbers, more cases done times a higher case value, there's extra there. And when we were doing fine before, but now I have all this additional money, in theory, I could pocket it or use it for marketing. So we used it for marketing. So that's number one. Number two, what this did for us was it allowed me to then use all my best people for better things in my office. So one of my top paralegals who read medical records all day long, she's now my director of operations. She runs my whole firm. I travel almost every week. So we're hitting all this growth, and I'm never at the firm, which is really amazing. For the last 2 months, I haven't been home a single week. I've been in the office in April and May total for less than 2 weeks total between those 2 months.
Wow.
So we're hitting all this growth without me even here. And that's because my director of operations, she can run this office. And instead, what she was doing a couple of years ago, she was reading medical records all day long. And now she runs every day of the office. Another one of my paralegals who's reading medical records all day long, she's an operations manager. She helps onboard all of our new people that we hire. She puts on trainings every week so we can keep training people on best practices. And she oversees all of our pre-litigation cases, which is a substantial number of cases. And again, she was just reading medical records all day. So we have people doing higher level work, which they prefer to be doing anyways, that are allowing us to grow. We have more money to use to marketing and to also hire other people. And so we've just taken all those things and we've really just grown with it. And then of course, paying close attention to our numbers. Where can we spend the best dollar in terms of getting the most cases and following all that. So that's in short really how we've grown quite a bit very quickly.
Well, thank you for that comprehensive answer. I'm sure there's a lot of practitioners, myself included, that will love to dissect that and see where we can implement it into our firms. You seem really focused on the data and not just incorporating AI and human talent, but data as well. Talk to me about your relationship with making sure that your dollars are well spent and tracking your leads and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it's funny. 4 years ago, I couldn't tell you how many leads were coming in, how many were signing up. I had no idea. And my answer would have been what I hear from most personal injury lawyers. Oh, if we want the case, we sign it up. We never miss a case. And that's what I hear from most injury lawyers.
I think that's bullshit.
That just tells me that they have no idea what their numbers are.
Yeah.
And so about 4 years ago, I started using just one of the technologies that can help you with leads. There's a bunch of them out there. I would say every personal injury lawyer needs to be using one of them. And we started really looking into our data and the leads we were signing up and how many qualified leads versus signups versus all this information, right? And about a year ago, I realized, this is really a job someone needs to have in terms of really focusing on our intake and our numbers and our acquisition costs. So about a year ago, I hired somebody and she has very clear metrics and KPIs of what she needs to get done. We look at, sign up percentage based on qualified leads, and we have certain metrics she needs to hit. We look at how many reviews we're getting, 5-star reviews on Google per quarter, certain numbers she needs to hit there. And we're looking at how many repeat clients we're getting or repeat clients that are sending us their friends and family. And there's certain metrics she needs to hit there. What we have found is the other thing that AI does and has done for us is that it allows us to really focus on servicing the client. So all of my paralegals, nobody reads in pre-lit, nobody reads the medical records. We have AI that helps us with that. So people ask me all the time, well, how many paralegals did you fire? I'm like, I didn't fire anybody. I hired 40 more people. Yeah. And like, what are you talking about? Well, we have more cases coming in than ever. And what's most important to me is servicing the clients the right way. And, we make a lot of decisions in my office based on providing the right customer service and experience for our clients. And by doing that, what we've also realized now that my paralegals don't have to have their heads in medical records all day long, and they can actually speak to clients and communicate. That gives the client a much better experience, which gets us a lot more free leads, which are basically, referrals from prior clients. And so that's helped with our growth tremendously also. And it's given a great client experience. So all these things kind of work together.
2 things that I took away. One is the role of human capital. And How are you finding such good talent? I know I hear a lot of people struggling to find good talent, good people to be involved in their firms. How do you guys go about making sure that you have the right people in the right places?
Yeah, that there's no rocket science to that. I haven't found technology that can fix that for me yet, but it's really hard. We basically hire all year round. We never stop hiring. I'm actually thinking about hiring somebody just to be our talent acquisition person. We don't have that yet, but we probably need it. So we hire year round. We're constantly reviewing resumes. We're constantly meeting with potential employees. I don't mind over hiring a little bit if we need to, if we find the right person. And we try to figure out pretty quickly, and sometimes we're slower than we should be, but we try to find out pretty quickly, is this person going to be the right fit? We
Sure.
don't hire based on their capabilities necessarily or their background. We hire based on a culture fit. And if they're hungry and if they're going to provide a good service to the clients, we figure we can teach the rest. But, we've hired some people in the last year that weren't a good culture fit, that maybe knew
Yeah.
how to do personal injury work, but they weren't a good culture fit. So they're not here anymore. We don't want to hire people that are jerks or not nice. Like that just isn't going to work in our culture here in my office. We do demand everyone comes in person, except for the virtual assistants that we have that are in some other places. But for the most part, everyone's here in person. And we're constantly just hiring. And if people aren't fitting in the right way, we're not shy to have to let people go if we need to. But we have found some amazing talent as a result of this, and just hiring year round, and even hiring sometimes when we didn't need to hire right that second, just knowing we would grow into it.
That's requires a lot of foresight. It reminds me of the saying, hire slow, fire fast. So making sure that people are fit in your culture and establishing what you need and your core values. That's, a lot of firms talk about it, but it sounds like you guys really embody that. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and I'll just add also, and I used to get stuck on the numbers, like, negotiating with potential employees. And the truth of the matter is, if you find a great employee, they're worth typically what they think they're worth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll ask people, what are you thinking? And if we think they'll be a great fit and we think they have the ability and, and all they check all the boxes for us, we'll say, okay, as long as it's reasonable, okay, here you go. You got it.
Sure. Yeah, the term reasonable has to be though. Expectations have to align. The other component I took away from your answer was you're utilizing a lot of tech, but you're also blending in the traditional model of servicing the client and making sure that you're responsive and communicative. How do you meld those two together so there's harmony in both? And a lot of law firms are trying to find that happy medium. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, so it's definitely a balance, like you mentioned, for sure. We have tried using some AI services for voice to try to help with that. We found as of right now, our clients didn't seem ready for it. We tried it. And I think maybe I'll be a little bit slower to adopt that than I had originally thought, just because I want more of the world to be okay with it first. I think when clients have been injured and hurt, they want the human touch and some empathy from a human. And you can
Sure.
still tell if it's human or AI. So we've tried that. Wasn't really for us right now, but we're doing. We have certain parameters, right? For the first couple months, there's an expectation, and people have to be in touch with the clients every couple weeks, every week or two. In the first couple months, that's mandatory, and that's through a phone call, not just like a text message or an email, through a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward, we use text messages from our files, from our case files. We're sending emails. We're making phone calls. We're doing a whole combination of stuff, but we're not using a lot of tech. There's a lot of human capital.
That's really neat. I messed around with the AI voice agents too, and I got the same feedback from clients. I lost probably 50% of the leads because it was just not there yet. It reminded me of when people would call a bank and they couldn't get a live human and they just get frustrated and hit zero all the time. So maybe at some point they'll get there, but not quite yet for some people. I think some firms are using it and they're probably doing well, but hopefully it will get there. I don't know. So I think you know the answer better than I do. That's why I'm talking to you today.
It's definitely going to get there. It's definitely going to get there. At some point, it's just going to be normal course. At one point, email wasn't normal, right? It'd be weird to get an email from your lawyer. Or it'd be weird to get a text message from your lawyer, right? Those things have become normal now. AI will eventually become normal and people will be used to it and people will be okay with it. But like you said, I lost signing up clients and I had clients upset. And for me, if we're making decisions based on what's the best service for the clients, that wasn't it right now. Down the road, that might be it. And when clients are ready for it, I'm happy to relook at it.
Yeah, I think that getting the world used to a new technology, you mentioned email, text messages, those were they were fast at the time, but now looking back, they were slower, and AI is just coming like a tidal wave. Talk to me about, you kind of hit why you started or co-founded LawPro.ai, but talk to me more what compelled you to get into it and jump into it early on, because we know that this space is there's so many vendors that offer the same services. So tell me a little bit about LawPro.ai and how you differentiate yourself from the other competitors.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. On the face of it, there's different vendors that look very similar. But as you dig deeper, and it's very hard to see this as a law firm, because a law firm doesn't have all this time to be vetting vendors. You know, you want to find your vendor and move forward. But on the surface, things look very similar. But then when you dig deeper, things can be very different. So what we do is we are specifically focused on dealing with medical records, bills, police reports, investigative reports, and helping you with pre-lit negotiations and litigation. And we don't do anything else. We don't get into voice. We're not trying to become case management. We're not trying to do anything else. We believe we are the best at extracting data related to those kinds of elements of your case for the entire life cycle of your case. And we're not trying to get anything else. We're just trying to be the best at that. And our technology is really good at it. It's the fastest technology out there. We believe we have the best technology out there. We're the only one to have patent pending hallucination prevention technology. So some of my competitors will literally say that what makes them different is they have humans checking things on the back end. And that to me is just the same technology we've always had. We've always had humans that have been checking stuff. You shouldn't need humans now. That's part of the whole point of technology. So we have patent pending technology that we don't need humans checking it because our technology is so good. And we have hallucination prevention technology that's patent pending. You want to be looking at price, right? Our price is less expensive because, again, we're not trying to nickel and dime our clients like, oh, if you want this, it costs this. If you want this, it's another charge. For our clients, it's just one charge for everything. You get everything you need for the entire life cycle of the case. What we're really trying to do at LawPro.ai is trying to be there with a law firm as a real partner, to be there for the whole life cycle and to work with the law firm how they need. So different law firms, some law firms are pre-lit, some are litigation, some do a mix, right? And we meet with these law firms every day and we figure out what are the best strategies to implement our technology with the way your firm wants to work. And it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
And so those are things I think makes us different than some of the other players out there.
Yeah, and disclosure, I am a client of yours, so I can speak to that. And it's really neat that you guys do offer a different service, but it's so niche. It's not a full comprehensive one size fits all, and that might work for some firms and other firms it might not. So it's good that you guys offer that one service because it definitely is game changing for me at least. Speaking of all these vendors in the AI space, where do you see the future of AI taking law? I know a lot of lawyers you speak to probably get a lot of different responses. Like some are scared that's going to put us out of work. Some are like, whatever. What do you, if you have a crystal ball, where do you foresee AI and law? What's the future look like for us?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what law we're talking about. You know, if you're an hourly, if you have a firm that bills hourly, I would say you need to rethink your strategy on how you're billing. I think the hourly billing is probably going to be going away. Sure. You know, for example, if you're a defense lawyer, I'm a PI lawyer, so I really know the PI space, right? But if you're a defense lawyer who bills insurance companies for deposition summaries, they're going to stop paying that eventually. Some of them already are no longer paying it because that can be done in 10 seconds with AI. Why are they going to pay a lawyer an hour to give a summary of a deposition?
Yeah, definitely.
If you're a contract lawyer, right? Contract lawyers no longer have to write the whole contract, right? You can have the basic parts of the whole contract written. It might take a review, but if you're billing per hour, maybe you're charging 1 hour instead of 10 hours, right? So I think there's going to have to be flat fee billing for those that are in the billable hours. They're going to have to relook at how they're doing their billing systems. Personal injury law, I think one thing that we're going to have to look at is right now you have all these different tools out there, and some of them say they're case management, some of them say they're this. So at the end of the day, what it's going to look like in my mind, and I could be totally off here, we'll see what happens, but I think basically you're going to be connecting all these different tools, and you're going to be connecting to a large language model through an MCP. And that's where you're going to be doing a lot of work. So you're going to still need a LawPro. You're still going to need a Gmail, right? But you're going to be connecting all these tools through one hub, which will be the large language model. Sure. It's impossible to keep up with these large language models. There's no case management system out there that can do it. There's no technology out there that can, Anthropic just raised a $900 billion valuation, right? That company is a couple years old and they're worth $900 billion now. And I spoke to somebody in the finance world who believes they're going to be worth a couple trillion in the next couple of years. Jeez. So there's literally no way for a legal case management system to keep up with that technology. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take all the different technologies you like, put them within that large language model and connect them, which is not hard to do. And it's becoming easier and easier right now through an MCP. Mm-hmm. And then you'll be able to work through that large language model and to get all the information you need. Now, the thing to be worried about there and concerned about as a user is, there's issues in terms of confidentiality, which are not fully baked out yet. And so that's why right now it's still, in my mind, still better to use the independent systems individually without having them connected right this second. Sure. But that'll change over time. And, you always have to make sure things are HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, closed system. And some of these are not. Even some of the paid ones are not. I met a lawyer in Fort Lauderdale a couple weeks ago, and he was very, sure about his technology that he was using. And when I explained to him the large language model he was paying for was not HIPAA compliant, he didn't believe me. So I said, go check it out. He checked it up and he realized his whole law firm was putting all their files through a non-HIPAA compliant platform. Ooh. He thought because he was paying for it was HIPAA compliant, but it wasn't. So he immediately called his firm and said, "Stop doing that. Don't put anything else in there." And he realized so there's some things you need to be aware of, but I think eventually these large language models, the valuations are crazy. Nobody will be able to keep up with them, and they're going to have to be part of your process and tool, one of the tools that you're using to help with all your other tools.
Yeah, you hit on several key components, making sure that the language model, you're ethically still responsible for what you put in the system. I know there's been a lot of talk of lawyers using the system and inadvertently giving away their secret sauce. How do like the language models learning our brain and taking our work product because a lot of people aren't using closed systems? How do you change that, or how do you avoid falling into that trap?
Well, I think if you are a lawyer or a law firm using a open system where it's learning off of your data, you're going to run into ethical issues. And so I think that's going to self-correct, because we're going to keep seeing more and more ethical issues and more lawyers get in trouble. We just saw, there was just a report that came out 10 days ago. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a lawyer who previously got in trouble for citing a fake case that was hallucinated. And it was not a real case, and the lawyer admitted to it not being a real case and got like a slap on the wrist, fine. The lawyer's still barred, still a good lawyer, and still trying
Yeah.
cases, but then went to go try another case, and the judge wouldn't let him be part of that case because he said, "No, you had a hallucination previously. We're not letting you in on this case now." And so it was weird. It's the first time I've ever seen it follow a lawyer.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I think right now some lawyers are using technology. Some of them just don't understand they are not allowed to be using it the way they are. And some of them are using it, but it's just a cheaper way to do it and just saying, "Oh, I can get away with this." But be careful. It's your law license on the line.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of sanctions come down for hallucinated cases, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you read that and you're in disbelief when you read it, but when you're in a crunch and time and efficiency and you're looking for a shortcut, some things can fall through the cracks real easy. In my mind, it's still the wild, wild west, and there's so much to learn. I think AI is just going to be ahead of us, and it's just learning how to use the good parts and be cautious of, the bad side of it, because it can definitely get us into trouble. You talked about the valuation of Anthropic. How do you feel about big tech VC coming into law? Because I know a lot of these vendors have big valuations and big money behind them. Where do you see the intersection of VC coming into specifically the tech world and PI and all that
Yeah.
stuff? Because it's been, a lot of money has come into this space really fast.
Oh, a ton of money, which is funny because it still pales in comparison to Anthropic. But like some of the biggest legal tech companies out there have a $2 billion or $3 billion or $5 billion valuation compared to Anthropic, which has a $900 billion valuation. But so here's my thoughts on this. Number one, if you're a vendor that has a high valuation worth $1 billion, $2 billion, I think it's really important when you talk to that vendor, if you're thinking about using them, to make sure that they're not going to become a competitor of yours down the road. Many of these large vendors that have these high valuations can very easily nowadays become a law firm. And if they become a law firm, you've been supplying all the data to them. And now they know exactly where to get the cases, where the best value for the cases are, where to send clients for treatment. You've literally supplied your competitor all the information. So I think that's a really important conversation to have with a vendor when you're looking at one, saying, what's to stop you from being a law firm? You have a $2 billion valuation. Tomorrow, you could become a law firm and start spending all these marketing dollars in my own area. So I think that's really crucial. And you want to make sure the vendor you're using isn't going to be your competitor down the road. The other part of this, which is separate and aside, is all this money is coming in from VC and PE money, and they're buying law firms. And, I have mixed feelings on it, because for a long time you had to be a lawyer to own a law firm. And I kind of, as a lawyer, I liked that moat, obviously, that you had to go through certain things to be able to own a law firm and provide service to clients. That said, there are a lot of bad lawyers out there. And there certainly are lawyers that have stolen clients' money and don't run a good business or settle clients' cases for too little that they shouldn't be. And I think some of this money coming in this space can help with that, can help make sure, when a PE firm comes in, they're going to want to make sure you're getting every penny and every dollar out of every case for the clients, because that translates to more money for them. And this has also led to law firms having higher valuations. So if somebody's looking to sell their law firm, right now is probably a better time than ever before. So I have some mixed feelings on it. I think in general, it's if the laws, the rules in the country and some states have decided that this is okay, and that's the law we live with, right? We're lawyers, we live with the law. So that's what's been determined, and you can't hide from it. It's the way it's going to be. And what it means now is you're going to have more competition than ever in your states. And by having more competition than ever, it's important to be able to extract every dollar you can for every client in every case, and to be able to market in a smart way and provide really great service to a client. Like what helps me think about things is that, we're getting hundreds of cases a year from past clients, friends, and family. And so even if my marketing was shut off tomorrow, and even if, big law firms came into Maryland, which they are right now, they'll be able to get a large amount of cases. But I know no matter what, I'll have X numbers of cases coming in every year.
Sure.
Like that's a good feeling. And I think that's something that every law firm needs to have as PE and big law firms are are coming into your state.
Yeah, it kind of tends to be, if you provide a good client experience, those people are going to refer you back. And it's nice to know that you have that in your back pocket. But with the competition, it's scary because, that's a reduction on cases coming in, and it's tough to think about because small firms like me, and I don't want to say you're a small firm, but competing against these national wide firms who have 7-8 figure marketing budgets, it's like, oh my gosh, how do I even compete? But I think you hit the nail on the head. Providing a seamless client experience and making sure that clients are treated well will always be a hedge against these big firms that are less personalized and kind of more corporatized. So excellent nugget there. I have talked to a few lawyers that they're a little bit scared for the future because you kind of hit, with the competition or new lawyers. As someone who's kind of a pioneer in this space, what's some advice you have for like people just coming out of law school? What are we going to do? What's the future of law hold for us for new lawyers? And then I'll ask you progressively after you answer that question.
Yeah. So, I think right now is the most exciting time to be a lawyer. This was a dead industry for forever where, like the last time we had an upgrade in technology was case management software, which frankly wasn't all that good. Like This is a super exciting time to be a lawyer. It's the reason that we get into this business, I think for the most part, to be a personal injury lawyer is to help people, right? If you want to make a lot of money, there's lots of other areas. You could be an investment banker, you could go on Wall Street, right? There's plenty of other ways to make money. I think most of us have gotten into this business to help people. And I think technology is going to allow us to help more people and do a better job. We fight billion-dollar companies every day. All the big insurance companies, State Farm, Geico, whoever you want to say. We fight them every day. And this technology gives us another tool to be able to fight them for our clients. So I think right now is a really exciting time to be a lawyer. And anyone graduating law school right now, I think should be super excited. I think it will get harder to start a law firm out of law school in the next couple of years because acquisition costs are going to be through the roof, right? We're already starting to see that, and it's only going to go higher. So if you're thinking about starting a law firm right out of law school, nowadays you could still do it, but I think that might change soon.
Yeah, unless you're getting some money from someone who's gonna gift you some cushion and startup costs. So for lawyers that like are established right now but haven't gotten on the AI train, what do you say to them?
It's funny. So 2 years ago, when we went to market 2 years ago, we now work with firms throughout the country, including some of the biggest personal injury firms in the country. And when I started talking to lawyers 2 years ago, lawyers would say to me, no, we don't need AI. We've built a nice business. We've never used AI. We don't need it now. We'll never need it. In the last year, that's changed. So in 1 year's time, that's changed. And lawyers have realized, if they don't start using AI, their firm will be left behind and there will be no way for them to compete. It's like when a law firm went from a typewriter to a computer, right? If you stayed with a typewriter, there's no way you could compete with a law firm that has a computer, right? This is the same kind of deal. And in 1 year's time, law firms have started to realize that if they don't make the switch and they don't start adding technology, that eventually they won't be in business. So if you're at the twilight of your career and you're thinking about hanging it up, okay, fine, maybe you don't need AI. But if you're anybody else, you're going to need to implement AI and technology into your business, or there will be no way for you to survive. Again, like we talked about, big law firms are coming into your space. Private equity is coming into your space. Cost acquisition costs, are going up. Employee salaries have gone up and continue to go up, right? Where are you supposed to make up the difference? It's got to be somewhere, and it's got to be technology. And also just providing the best for your client, right? Lawyers hate to admit that, especially personal injury lawyers, that they ever would miss a fact that would increase their case value for their clients. And when I talk to lawyers, like, oh, we never miss stuff. We see stuff all the time, right? Well, it's not true. It's just not true. And what we have found is actually increasing case values. Again, you're providing better service to your client and you're helping your law firm.
Yeah, that's well said. And I know a lot of people are like, okay, let's get on AI. And then the next question is, how do I do it? What are some foundational steps people need to know in order to start incorporating AI? Because it's not as simple as turning on a switch and voila, it's there.
You're absolutely right.
It's hard, man. Having been doing this for 2 years. Tell us some foundational best practices.
Yeah, absolutely. So AI is not magical. You can't just flip a switch like you mentioned, right? And suddenly AI is going to take over your practice and everything's going to be great. It doesn't work like that. Like everything else in a well-run law firm, you need to have processes and procedures. And you need to know, what cases are going to go through the AI and what part and what stage and everything else. That's another big difference with LawPro.ai is the way that we price things, it allows law firms to put every case, no matter how big or small, because smaller cases will cost less money, bigger cases will cost more money, but bigger cases should have higher settlement values, right? And so that helps with the process and procedure with law firms we work with. When you start creating processes where it's like, all right, these cases go into LawPro, but this kind of case doesn't go into LawPro, and this kind might go in, you're making it much more difficult on yourself. And with many of our competitors, that's what you have to do because they charge per case. And so that hurts the process here. What's really important is before you bring on AI or as you're bringing in AI is you're thinking about what process you want to use. Are all of my cases going to go through the AI vendor? Or some of my cases, at what point will they go through? What are we using the AI for? How is it helping us? It should not be just a fun tool or a neat tool. It needs to be a game-changing tool for your law firm. You need to set out clear policies and procedures before you do that. And LawPro, we help with that. We help talk through with you, what makes the most sense for your firm, depending on if you're heavy lit, if you do a combination, what kind of cases are you doing? We talk through all that stuff with all of our law firm customers because I think it's critical. Because if you just I've met with so many law firms that they go and they pay for the AI and they spend a whole bunch of money, and a year later they have nothing and they barely used it. And it's because they didn't have any policy or procedures in place of how or when and so on.
Yeah, you got to have a good solid practice and have the technology complement it, because it's not going to come in and solve all your operational deficiencies. For those of people, let's not talk about medical record companies, but for those people trying to find like an AI company, do you have any good ways to vet and make sure that company fits and suits your needs? Any advice for those law firms looking at AI, or they're just like overwhelmed by the amount of options out there?
It is tough. You have to think about, number one, you have to think about what's your bottleneck, what's your pain point, right? Again, you shouldn't just be paying for a vendor just because they're fun and cool, right? It should be to fix a problem. So I'm not going to pay for a vendor if I didn't have a problem in the first place. I likely will just create more of a problem if I bring another vendor. So what's the problem you need to fix? And what I try to look at in my firm is, all right, we have fixed this problem. What's the next problem I need to fix? All right, how are we going to fix it? What technology are we going to use? We use human capital, technology only, and what are we going to do? So first, figure out what's your problem. Once you figure out what your problem is, start doing some research and find what vendors can help fix that problem. And then you want to look at things like, if you are dealing with client confidential information like medical records, are they HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, closed system? Do they have all the verifications that they need to make sure that the information is safe? That's table stakes, obviously. If they're not dealing with specific information like medical records, then you want to also be making sure that, how's the tool going to work? Can I use it for every case? How would it work with me? How easy are they to work with? Do I have a customer success person? Do I have unlimited support with the customer success person? How do I reach out to them? What are they going to do for me? Where are they going to be after I sign this contract? You want to very clearly understand the pricing to make sure you don't get any upcharges or additional pricing that you didn't expect. So I'd say once you figure out your pain point, figure out how you want to solve it, what technology you want to use, meet with a couple of vendors, make sure they have all the certifications that they're supposed to have. If they don't, that vendor's out for sure. Make sure they're charging a fair and reasonable price, and that they're actually going to be there with you, that you're not going to sign a contract and then they're gone after that and see you later, see you at renewal. Those are a lot of things you need to look at.
Yeah, all wise points. I tried to talk to some people that were using the technology to see how it fit with their firm and if they ran similar firms to mine. So just talking to current clients, past clients to see what system fits helped me out. And I used to make the mistake of just diving right in with the first vendor, and then I'd have to extract myself from that problem. And then so now it's a slow process. So I might be a little slower to adopt, but I'm trying to be more conscientious with my decisions in that regard. We've talked a lot about how AI has revolutionized medical records and summaries and whatnot. What do you foresee as the next revolution that AI is going to change in law?
Wow, that's a hard one. I think eventually we're going to get to the point, I believe, where AI is going to be able to help you throughout the pre-lit process. What's not going away are trial lawyers, right? So I think trial lawyers are going to become more and more valuable over time. And if you're a trial lawyer now, congrats to you. And if you're not one, you should probably learn how to be one if you're good at that or want to do that. But I think eventually over time, the pre-lit is going to more and more kind of take care of itself with some oversight with some paralegals. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen in a year or 5 years. It's impossible to know.
Sure.
But I think really a lot of the pre-lit and then a lot of the discovery also will be able to be done using a lot of different AI tools. And then at the end of the day, if you have to try the case, you'll need a lawyer to try the case. And, unfortunately, there's a lot of lawyers that do personal injury work that don't know how to try cases. And if you are a lawyer like that, right now might be a good time to start learning how to try cases, because I think that will make you much more valuable in several years.
Yeah, or finding someone who you can be chummy with and send your cases to if you don't like trying cases, because trying cases isn't for everyone. It's a whole different arena. I think a lot of the really awesome trial lawyers, they're just wired differently. It's like Kobe Bryant wired, So there's a lot of people that, are going to go full AI. Do you think there's going to be a pendulum shift back to like, what, we're kind of, it's too much AI. We want the more human approach firm. Do you think there's going to be a shift back to the traditional law firm in the future, or nah?
Some AI we're never going backwards from. Like if I had to tell people in my office now that they had to read medical records all day long again, they'd quit, right? They wouldn't stay. Yeah. So some of it you're never going to be able to go back to, and it's probably better that way. Some of it, we already talked about how you and I both went back from an AI tool for voice and phone. Yep. That we both went back from because we realized this isn't what our clients wanted. And so I think it depends on the tool and what you're looking for. But as customers are used to experiencing the AI, process and the AI feel, I think eventually you won't be going back. You'll be moving forward with that.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of how a lot of lawyers, it was a local lawyer. I want to go into the office and meet the lawyer, do a handshake, and signing like e-document signatures was so, oh my gosh, it's so taboo. And now it's become so acceptable. So as people's comfort grows with AI, I feel that you're right. It's going to be part of the process. And as always, our ability to service clients and be approachable and be responsive is going to set you apart. But if you can marry all the facets of technology along with excellent customer service, you're going to be a step ahead of everyone else. That's at least my opinion. I think you've fleshed that out really well today. So where can people find you if they want to chat with you about LawPro or pick your brain about where AI is going?
Yeah. Best way to reach me is email, josh@lawpro.ai. Anyone can feel free to reach out, email me anytime. Happy to talk through anything you like, whether it's law firm, growing a law firm, AI, technologies, vendors. I'm always happy to chat, meet people. And so, yeah, reach out to me anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you think people need to know about technology, AI, running an awesome law firm?
No, I think we covered it. Just keep the client in mind, right? It's based on the client experience. And if we're all there for our clients, we're gonna help each other. We're gonna help our clients, which is the most important part. So thanks a lot for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No
And it's
problem.
great
Thank you,
connecting.
Josh. It was a pleasure talking to you.